Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Casper Association community call hosted and run by the Casper Association. On this week's call, we will discuss the partnership between Casper Labs and the Arcadia Group. We're joined today by Ralph, Piotr from the Casper Association, Meda and Ashok from Casper Labs, and Rasik from the Arcadia Group. Towards the end of the call, we're going to open up for a Q&A. You can just leave your questions down in the YouTube live video feed here, or drop them in our Telegram, and we'll be sure to try and answer them as best we can towards the end of the call. Thank you to everyone for tuning in this week, and I'm handing it off to you, Ralph.
Thank you, Joe. This is Ralph Kubli from the Casper Association. It's a pleasure to be here and have every one of you attend. Today, we are having a very exciting conversation with Rasik, who will talk about not only what they're doing usually, but of course, what Arcadia Group is doing with Casper and why they're so excited about Casper. Before we do that, I'll hand over to Piotr shortly. Before I hand over to Piotr, maybe a word about the association. So the association intends to provide quite some technical information about the validators and the validators that are actually qualified to become a member relatively soon. This will be public information. Most of the technical infrastructure that we are building for these validators will also be available for public consumption. And so we're looking forward to communicating that as soon as we have something for the community to look at and evaluate. Yeah, up to you, Piotr, on the update for the network.
Thank you very much, Ralph. It's Piotr Dziubecki from Casper Association, and as usual, I will start with technical update rounds. So we do this on a weekly basis. I'm trying to provide you the update on the current state of the art, what you are working on, and what are the events from the past week. So let me switch to our public website on GitHub, where we store this information. So the Casper team is working still on the third major upgrade. We are addressing all the issues and all the features that we wanted to provide. With that in mind, we extended our development cycle by a couple of weeks. So now we are wrapping up the 7th weekly sprint of the third major upgrade. This is about to be finished. According to our estimates, we need around 1 or 2 weeks to wrap up all the work, and then we'll be handing this over to first for the integration test, then for testnet, and then we will be staging for the mainnet upgrade. And the main topics, main venues remain unchanged. So we are working on the network robustness hardening, and we are doing a lot of production engineering work. So tests, anything that is related with making sure that the network is up and stable, that we provide well-tested upgrade to the network. As for the details on the release, the latest stable release is sitting in GitHub, so it's tagged with 1.2. This is also the current version of the network that is running. About the stats that you can see them on the Casper Live and Casper Stats. Currently, let me check live. Currently, we already hit 116, 165 block height. We have full house, so 100 validators out of 114 bits, and we have over 4 billion stake bonded. So impressive stats. It's growing, and the network is producing new blocks, new eras every 2 hours. So we are very, very happy with that. The same stats you can see here on casperstats.io, and for the current focus, so our 7th sprint on the protocol side, we are working on the 2 items. So one is to implement the new synchronizer basing on CEP48. So both the implementation work and the CEP are publicly available for review. And we are also working and adjusting our ways with equivocator nodes. So now this ticket is about re-enabling banned equivalators. If you want to go for the details, it's active link, so it will point you to the very much details of this issue, and more issues could be found for Casper node in our GitHub repository, as you see it here. On the node side, we are working on the deploy acceptor. So this is in fact a whole epic for us. This epic will be fully implemented in 1.4, but we are already producing the first executions implementations towards finalizing this big feature or enhancing this feature that's already existing. On test and SRE side, we are constantly working to support the network and the releases. We have mainnet. We are also cooperating with DevXDAO and Make on the test network, and we are instantiating integration networks as well for our internal purposes. We are still extending NCTL, which is our internal testing framework, to make sure that we are able to go through various scenarios and make sure that all corner cases are covered by our test coverage. In ecosystem, we are constantly working with exchanges on the integration support. We released, I think 2 weeks ago, we released new versions for JavaScript Sdk, both for the new generation and the old stable branch. These are available for tests. 2.0 provide new features. You can check on them by looking at the changelog. I highly recommend to compare these two releases and switch over to 2.0, as it will be our main JS SDK library for the future. Casper Signer will undergo the UI UX enhancements. So we are, in fact, today we will be starting the first workshop on UX analysis of Casper Signer. After that, we'll have a list of points to improve, and this will be addressed in the upcoming release cycle. We also released candidate 1.3, which is available for tests. So if you check the PR that is linked here in this document, you will see the summary of the changes, and you will also have the possibility to check both the new version and so release candidate and the current version for test and comparison if this is working for you. So if you are close to this part of the software, we are expecting that you could help us. So please check this link, check the binaries, and comment on this PR as it is open for the community. Then moving on, contract runtime, we are finalizing last items from constant audit. So this will be included in 1.3 release. And we are also working on local keys feature that I was describing last week. On economic research side, we have Alexander. So Alexander, if you could explain us what is the current status here?
Certainly. Well, as this is my fault, but a couple of these things should be split, right? So there are 4 things. There's auction design and the gas cost pipeline rework. And the first of these is for one of our partners, but this auction function, these auction smart contracts are going to be available, more broadly, of course. And we are making them fairly generic as well. Still working on the gas costs and actually refreshing the host function metrics contract as a part of that work stream. And additionally, we are working on a couple of things internal to Casper Labs.
Thank you. I'm looking at our panelists. If we have our friends from DevXDAO, Wolf, you are with us. Can you shed some light on the current status of DevXDAO initiatives?
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks, Piotr. So we have made several significant upgrades to the portal, including the ability to edit proposals while the the proposal for a given grant is in discussion. We are also we have identified out of the existing over 80 grant applications, we have identified 15 new members that are helping us to grow the voting associate member community. And we've started onboarding 3 of those. Tomorrow we'll be onboarding another 3. So we should be having another 6 or so, depending on how the onboarding goes tomorrow, new voting associates, which is very, very exciting. And we're growing the DevX DAO consistently. We've also made several adjustments in the onboarding of new associates, so people who are coming onto the platform. And that is moving from a 8-page agreement to a 2-click terms and conditions engagement that allows people to get onboarded relatively quickly. And so those are some of the current upgrades that we are performing. We're also very excited that Michael Steuer of Make Services has joined the DevX DAO, and he already has provided enormous feedback and input that is extremely beneficial to the DAO. So maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the grants. I remember from last week that Meta wanted us to talk about that. I don't know if Timothy is ready for this. Otherwise, I can jump in. Okay.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, I actually did. I threw them up on in the panelist chat. If you want to just grab it from there, I'm trying to go grab it. I'm doing a little double duty as dad alone this week, so things are taking just a moment longer. So if you can hit those links, if not, I can go read those off. It'll just be a moment. Yeah, that's fine. I have it. Yeah. So Timothy has listed here the links for the newly incoming grants. We have several that are from last week that we've now upgraded, including the memory DAO. So we have upgraded from last week. This is number 38 in the system. We have now onboarded a whole new DAO community with over 4,000 machine learning developers who are operating on the governance structures that the DevX DAO is using. So that is a big grant where the Casper community and the CSPR is getting distributed to machine learning devs, and so that is a very big deal to us, because we now get to set up separate communities, and we're helping to grow the Casper ecosystem much quicker through those new communities. Which is very exciting. And then, let me go back. There's several others from last week. ESC 721 grants. We have ESC 1337 grants. But I think we mentioned those last week. So let me switch gear and talk a little bit about the new grants. So people may know that Casper has a very big Turkish community. And there's a huge demand for Turkish translation services. So one of the grants, Mohamed Kara, highly appreciated incoming VA, has put in the system here with 78. It's the initial Turkish translation services. And this is really great, because we're getting real-time translation services. So as things are moving in the DevX DAO, the translation team has agreed to continue to upgrade the translations to make it available to the Turkish community, which is great. Then we have also the Rosetta grant. I know Rasik is on the call. Rasik, I don't know if you want to say a few words about Rosetta, if you're ready for it. Yeah, go ahead, Rasik.
It's a development SDK that was created by Coinbase. It's primarily used in a large number of integration settings. So what Coinbase went out to do with Rosetta is to standardize inputs and outputs between different node types. Now, generally with the Bitcoin-based blockchains, the RPC doesn't really change that much, which is basically how the node communicates to like other things. But when you go across a different variety of blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and in this case Casper as well, there's different node communications that make it very difficult for exchanges, for explorers, for wallets, for all of the fun stuff to actually interact with the node with ease. And what Rosetta does is it standardizes inputs and outputs. Now, of course, in this context with Casper, there's a little bit of variation because of the additional functionality that exists in Casper. But what we've done is that this grant was recently approved, but we started working on it a bit prior. And right now, it's currently in the testing phase. We're trying to make sure we're getting all of the Rosetta standard unit test passing. But it's available on our publicly on our GitHub. Let me drop a link to that in the Casper Telegram chat. And if someone wants to drop it into the YouTube chat, that's cool too. Basically, it's right now you can play with it, and it'll work on the binary level, but with unit tests it'll fail. And we're working to have the unit tests fixed probably by tomorrow or so. So it's pretty cool. It's also in terms of really boosting the developer ecosystem. You know, I don't speak for everyone, but I prefer the easiest route whenever I'm developing for that's the safest, right? And if you have something that's battle tested and easy to use, that makes development in an ecosystem a lot easier. Now, of course, this is only on a node interaction level. There's going to need to be additional standardization separately for different smart contract standardization and stuff like that. But there's actually another grant someone else is doing, I think, in that regard, right? Or I don't know if that's been submitted yet.
Thank
I
you,
think
Rafik.
that's the
They're on their way.
grant, I think. Yep.
So the next grant that we have, which is a bigger one, is run by Dr. Ardell. This is 74. My understanding is that Dr. Ardell is very much involved with the Casper community and represents Casper in Dubai. So this is a grant about decentralized lending networks. So this idea of DLN, decentralized lending networks, stands at the crossroads of DeFi and micro lending, and it's intended to be a new set of rails developed to help microfinance institutions around the world scale and showcase the power and promise of the blockchain to make positive impact on the world. So microfinance, for those folks who are not economists, people may know that this is a very big deal in sub-Saharan Africa and the developing world. So Dr. Ardell here has put this grant in. It was approved almost unanimously. It's a €500,000 worth of grant. And this is a very big undertaking. We're very excited about this particular one.
Dr. Ardell is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and it's great to see those that are here to actually do a lot of academic research and put their research into action, participating. So we're very excited to have him come along and be a part of the trip down this lane. But that was very excited about that grant.
Timothy, if you want to go ahead and talk about BootNode and the privacy mapping applications, those are the two.
Sure. Yeah. So BootNode it's actually been in the works for a long time. This is basically an Infura analog that is push button node infrastructure support. So ultimately, this is to help make staking and infrastructure design more easy for everyone, and also to decouple kind of the expenses of the current cloud providers and the difficulty of expanding nodes into different service providers in an easy way, to where you can at some points allow the cheapest cost services and ideally the most decentralized services for your nodes at the push of a button. So this has been a project that has been worked on by David Tai for a number of years, and looking forward to seeing what develops there. We actually did demonstrate BootNode at Consensus in 2018. So looking very much forward to the continued efforts and the work that will do. It is more of an open source Infura analog that will be coming and should make launching Casper nodes extremely easy across many different service providers, as well as the ability for individuals to connect to the network and bring your own cloud for other people to utilize your Kubernetes clusters to be able to run nodes on and be rewarded for that. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. The privacy mapping application. So this again is kind of a compliance and privacy risk for data architecture requirements for validators. Oftentimes people are people are selling validation services and staking services, and sometimes they have to comply with different privacy rules. And a lot of validators and validation services aren't necessarily thinking about those when it comes to financial compliance organizations. So there is a legal team that's working on understanding the mapping for validation services and staking.
This is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. Like I'm super stoked that we're getting into some of the, like, again, the architecture of like cutting the legal work out, getting legal frameworks out for everyone to be able to operate in. So where all of us aren't, going at this alone or in the dark, it's only being presented once. Once this is done, there will be an opinion, like we saw in software, that will then verify your services to see whether or not you are in compliance for your jurisdiction where you're operating. That's great. That's going to save a lot of people a lot of headaches. And this is a print once, receive many times operation, and super excited for it to go through. And yeah, so that was great. As Wolf said, we began with some of the onboarding. Now that we have some of the grant recipients finishing milestones, and we're able to bring them on as voting associates. Extremely exciting times. I'm very excited to have welcomed Michael Stoyer this week, and Martian as well. It's coming on next week. We have several more that are coming in. I'm really excited to get more people in through the process. Coming into our Telegram chat at DevXDAO and trying to find out the conversations that we're having is a great place to start. On Tuesdays, just following this call, we have our own community call, which is just an hour-long session of trying to catch everyone up about what we've been working on, who's working on what, and what you might want to work on. So it's a very open community. Please, we encourage you to come in. It is our mission to decentralize value into the hands of developers that can build, can get things done, and make sure that.
Timothy, I have a question. I have a question. Can you talk about some of the DeFi protocols and the bridges and like some of the cool stuff that I know the community is probably really keen on to start seeing liquidity, coming into Casper and, basically locking that value on the blockchain. So can you share with some of the interesting grants that you guys have been able to curate in this arena, and when we can expect those to go live?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've got a number of major, the DeFi liquidity providers that have come to us and have, some of them have received grants. Some of them are in that grant application process. I believe I'm allowed to mention Vesper by name. If I'm not, well then strike me. But the Block team and Vesper have been good friends of our community for a long time. And Matthew Rozak, Matt Lamb, and the rest of the team, Jeff Garzak, are right now scrambling and building and working on bringing over Vesper, which is an incredible DeFi protocol into Casper. As a part of that, there's a lot of things that need to be built. There's a lot of like underlying, like Meta mentioned, bridges, wrapped token, wrapped issuances that need to be built. Simple like swap dexes. Those things are in process. We do have a DEX that is kind of a co-effort between a team I know out of Los Angeles, and I probably can mention this again, some of the people from the Wise token community. So I know that they are coming over and looking at building that out and working on that. So very exciting to see them working on that, and we have Sprinkle as well. So Sprinkle is an IDO launch platform that is represented by an incredible team that is very, very capable. Formerly the head of marketing for the Ethereum, is it Consensus? Former head of marketing for Consensus leads the Sprinkle IDO platform. So we're very much looking forward to that platform coming out too. But there's some of the underlying standards that are being worked on as well that you have to mention when you're thinking about what these things will represent. So some of the the transpiled contracts from ERC20 to the ERC20 equivalent over at Casper, but then some of the new native Rust contracts that are being built specifically for that, and also like the 777 contracts that are in progress in development. So all these things are building blocks to the wider ecosystem. So a lot of things in the works. There is an ETH bridge based on the work of the Binance, the BSC to ETH bridge that Binance had done. That in early discussions, I know an application is expected to come in for that from a extremely capable team out of Ukraine. That we've been in discussions on how that should be formatted, and that should come in as well. So there's a lot of work being done, and if you've got any interest in helping build any parts of this, we also we were very comfortable with multiple people taking different approaches at a solution. So from the wrapped tokens and wrapped assets, if you have a decentralized solution, we'd be very interested in hearing about what you might be bringing. Or if you have any other ideas on things you'd like to build in DeFi, we've got a great community that's budding and building stuff out for it. But yeah, it's been exciting. Come join later today. We've got the call, and happy to show people how to apply and how to get involved. But yes, all going along very well. Looking forward to getting more applications in and having more voting associates.
I know this part of the site is still being worked on, but you can see some of the action on viewer.devxdao.com. It's I know that Wolf and Charles from Ledger Leap are working on making it a lot more awesome, but you can actually see a lot of the activity going on from here, and it's pretty cool, especially with the search functionality, because that gives you the ability to search for historical grants as well.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, we have system upgrades every week, and the Ledger Leap team is working tirelessly, grinding through the specs, upgrading, making things more user-friendly. So please, every week there's incremental progress. Some of these things take longer. We have to do some back testing, etc. But we're making incremental progress, great progress every week.
Yeah, one grant that I would actually recommend looking into for anyone that's interested is the Golang Sdk for Casper. I believe that's the one made by
Distributed Labs. Distributed Labs. Yeah,
yes.
Dr. Pavel. Fantastic team, and they crushed it.
Yeah, we've been
number 67. It's in active formal voting right now.
So we've actually been using that for a Rosetta implementation, and it's been pretty awesome.
It already has quorum.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the cooler grants because the functionality it adds to the ecosystem is absolutely massive, especially in the context that a large number of core node level infrastructure is written in Go, primarily because of Ethereum. So this actually kind of adds a large amount of ease of integration to a lot of cool technologies. So I just wanted to point out that grant because it's really cool.
Well, thank you, Rosik. I really pushed hard for that several weeks, probably several months ago, to get that team going, and really love the team that built that. But that's also an integral part of a lot of exchange integration. But the team that built that, the Distributed Labs team, incredible team. Thankful that they're part of the community, and I'm hoping that all milestones that are reached and all submissions for milestones are as smooth as that one was. Very fantastic team.
Great. I'm checking the time, so I think thank you very much, DevXDAO. I will include also viewer.devxdao in our current status document. So we still have the meeting with you in 30 minutes. The meeting link is also provided here. And now, just to fit into our time frame, Rasik, I'm just getting back to the presentation. Arcadia Group. So if you could please introduce yourself. I know it's a little bit switched the order, but still, and then introduce the company and partnership with Casper Labs. Please.
Absolutely, yeah. So Arcadia is a software development and security company. We're primarily active in the DeFi and privacy-preserving technology space. In the privacy tech space, we primarily work with zero-knowledge proofs and fun things along those lines. The main technologies we've primarily worked with are in regards to receiver address privacy and payment codes in that regard. And outside of that, we've also done some work with on the privacy side with ring signatures and zk starks and things along those lines. On the DeFi side, we're more notable for our security services than our development services. While we have done some cool development engagements, most of our security work has been in the area of audits and code reviews. Now, in this area, we've primarily been working in prevention and as well as recovery at later points in time. And thankfully, we've never had a situation where prevention and recovery have been in the same engagement. But that's where we do a large amount of our work. We're also doing a substantial amount of work in terms of building infrastructure in the Casper space now. So we've made a massive commitment. We're rapidly hiring, and I'm plugging the Arcadia job site right now that we have about 15 positions open for Rust developers, as well as about 5 or 6 in peripheral quality assurance and this other one, quality assurance documentation and other fun things like that. So definitely check that out. Now, in terms of what we're doing on Casper, so right now outside of core infrastructure, and I've got a cool wallet to show you guys if we have the time for it. But outside of that, we've also been working on building infrastructure for Web3 integrations, such as GoSudo API, which is basically an inferior equivalent for the Casper ecosystem, as well as building some one-click supply chain solutions and things along those lines. So it's easier for people to start building on Casper. Now, on the DeFi side, we're working right now to identify ways that we can create standardized contracts for ease of repeatability. Now, one of the factors for anyone that's familiar with the space is that basically a lot of the technology that exists today is because copy and paste is so easy. The top 10 DeFi protocols right now all use either code from each other or inherit code from protocols like Bancor and things along those lines, or even technical standards. So it's very important that the code that's being built is easy to use, easy to replicate, easy to kind of copy and build upon and innovate upon. So that's where we're kind of focusing on right now. Now, some of the cool stuff that we're really excited about on the Casper side is primarily on the CI/CD solutions. So anyone who's familiar with Ethereum development knows that hard hat is pretty much king right now. They overthrew the Ganesh suite and all that fun stuff. But with hard hat and things along those lines, you have a lot of the functionality that Casper has natively. So functionality like local testing and replication, fun stuff like that, as well as having the ability to do multi-contract testing in an isolated environment, as well as in an environment where you're testing against a large variety of others contracts, as well as, and this is pretty cool, how easy it is to actually kick up a testnet. Now, kicking up a testnet usually, it takes a bit of time if you're doing one that you want to sustain. But on Casper, they actually have a Python script that you can just run, and bam, you're running a testnet that you can have. Like on my side, the big thing is that when you have about 6 or 7 developers working on a single engagement at once, it can be a real pain in the ass to actually maintain all of those people maintaining the same instances and having accounting for iterating state in that area. So with how easy it is to create testnets on Casper, that's pretty much it's a godsend. Now, I have 2 other things on here that aren't really relevant for Casper. One other thing on here that's not relevant for Casper, which is the machine learning stuff. We're pretty active in that area in terms of building GANs for deepfakes. Now, the ethics of that is kind of arguable, so we've kind of we're kind of taking a step back on that while we figure out the best way to move forward there. Now, back to the Casper stuff. Sorry, I just saw that. I'm like, I probably should clarify that real quick before someone starts thinking that I'm doing like mercenary stuff. But on our team right now, we have a few different cool things that we're working on that I think that's super relevant. So do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Sure.
Okay, let me share screen. So this is probably one of the simpler projects that we're working on. This took about 2.5 weeks to make. It took a little bit longer in terms of some of the let's call it technical integrations, the upstream libraries we were using. We kind of had to work with. Now, this is kind of just our wallet setup. We're going to have this out probably by end of day tomorrow. And it's essentially just a simple Casper wallet. What we're going to be doing is, and shout out to David Tai for convincing me that we need to do this. We're actually going to be integrating signing functionality in wallet to potentially connect with the Casper signer or separately, so that someone can independently sign a transaction from the website, have the URI open up the GoSudo wallet, and they can just one click say, hey, I'm signing this transaction, or I'm signing this interaction. And that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And in fact, if anyone wants to play with the beta, which is, I guess, if it's coming out tomorrow, there's not much need for playing with the beta, but we do have some pretty cool stuff here. Like, for example, let me copy this address real quick. Set default wallet. There's still some bugs on this specific version because I haven't downloaded the latest one. But let me show this real quick. So wallet, send, let's see. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I sent an inaccurate one. Sorry, 1 sec. And okay, sorry. I keep on forgetting that there's a minimum transfer size on Casper. The demo gods are not smiling upon me today. I probably should have planned this out beforehand. Okay, here we go. Now, right now, some of the cool stuff we're changing right now in this is that because of how easy it is to actually build systems like this on Casper, this is going to take us approximately 2 days to port to mobile, and pretty soon you're going to have the ability to, play with this on mobile as well. Now, the UI is going to be a bit different because it's hard to fit all of this stuff on mobile unless we do it linearly, and that kind of sucks in terms of user experience. So you're going to have kind of a little bit lower functionality in that area. Now, how this wallet is not an open source one, but we are going to be open sourcing everything outside of the UI. So the entire backend infrastructure. We're still figuring out a good open sourcing plan for that. But basically, right now, let's say that I wanted to do a 50 token delegation, I could do it from here, and there you go. 2 clicks delegation. And in fact, this is cross-compatible with your Casper Signer wallet. So if you have your PEM file, you can just do import from file and just select the file and have it running from here. So that's our GoSudo wallet. We also have, and let me move screens real quick. Sorry, I have a million tabs open, and I want to make sure I don't accidentally scare the audience with something dumb. Okay, internet's a bit slow. I'm going to drop a link into the panelist chat, so in case anyone has a faster internet than me, they can pull it up. There we go. Sorry. Resharing my screen now, and I'm setting it to GoSudo. Now, this will take a second to load because this is not our production environment. This is a test environment running on a potato. Let's see if that, 1 sec. Okay, disable. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, so basically, if any of you guys are familiar with Infura, it's one of the backbones of the decentralized infrastructure, right? If you're looking at any sort of browser extension system or anything along those lines, they're using a node in the backend. Now, in the Ethereum ecosystem, Infura is king, with Fastly being the main infrastructural provider behind that. Now, of course, right now there is competition in that area with providers such as ChainStack and others coming in and starting to kind of decentralize the market a bit. And the goal is that in Casper there shouldn't be just one party providing these services, right? So, for example, this solution here is primarily focused on not self-hosted, but primarily people that are, I just need this right now. I'm just going to grab it and go. Bootnodes is also doing something really similar in that area, except they're also supporting hosting it on your own infrastructure, which is arguably better for if you're running a large-scale deployment or running an operation that you don't want reliant on a third-party provider, well, excluding the server provider. Now, the cool part about this system right here is that we have automated Kubernetes scaling, so we really don't need to worry too much about a large amount of the stuff in this area. Now, this API key right here, I've dropped it in the dev.chat, chat, and this is publicly available. If you want to use this Casper API right now, it's a production one. As long as you don't go over this limit per the day, you're good. And chances are you're not going to be going over that unless you download the blockchain like a metric ton of times. Now, these are the two projects that we have that are done. Some of the projects that we have that are upcoming, we have some partnerships that we're working on with some of our clients in regards to porting over the DeFi applications over to Casper, as well as some projects in the arena of fantasy football and things along those lines, building solutions in the Casper ecosystem as well. Now, when I say solutions, it's primarily in the NFT space because that's where a lot of interest comes from in that area. We're also working on some things in regards to one-click supply chain, which I can't show you that demo because my developers will kill me. It's not close to demonstration ready, but it's just to give you a description. It's you can one-click provide all the parties that are involved in a supply chain, which realistically you're going to be adding more people later on. So we have a little bit of flexibility there, and right now we're having it supported by a public blockchain solution, basically where we're doing it on the public Casper network. But the goal is that we want to coordinate later on and potentially have it where it's private network deployment, of course, dependent on the different licensing requirements in that area. Now that's some of the stuff we're working on, and I know I just gave like a giant info dump, but we're doing a lot of stuff, and with the number of developers we're bringing on right now just for building more in the Casper ecosystem, it's pretty awesome. And it's kind of funny actually. We actually have a backlog of projects that want to move over to Casper, but it's just it's a capacity problem for us now. So we're kind of expanding to handle that. And that's my blurb.
This is great. It's very impressive, and I'm very happy to hear that. So the wallet is coming out tomorrow.
Yes, we're going to make 2 minor changes. I'm sure you guys saw me kind of fumble a bit with that error. That's already been fixed, and we're on the new binary, and we're making 2 other fixes to make it a little bit friendlier for Mac users, as well as making it so that in terms of it's called compliance with 1.2's memo requirements. So basically, we're just going to be making some minor changes. It's not going to be noticeable UI-wise. We're also going to be making it so that if you're using it on mainnet, there you have about 2 or 3 options for staking through our wallet. And yeah, that's pretty much where we are on that one. But GoSudo API is also going to be coming out this week. So that's going to be coming out. Today's Tuesday. This will be coming out on the 3rd, Saturday.
Very cool.
Yeah, I know people say don't deploy on Fridays. We deploy on Saturday. We live dangerously.
Yeah, very good, very good. Quick question, Rasik. You guys have 2FA and seed phrase support. Is that you're going to be integrating that in? Is that already in there? Did I miss that?
Yes, we have seed phrase support, as well as we're supporting the 2 stated derivation paths of Casper according to what's been submitted to BIP 39, as well as we're extending for 2FA support. Now, one of the problems with 2FA is that when you're doing it in a local environment, you have both the server key and the local key on the same device, which kind of makes 2FA moot. So if you want to have 2FA, you have to have a secondary server. Now, for that, that creates a centralization concern. So we're going to make that optional and have like an awful amount of warnings saying that, hey, this 2FA system is going to be using a third-party server for the actual server key. And we actually have done single system multi-factor authentication, but the problem with that is that you, at the end of the day, you're kind of just using it as a third-party signing key, and that kind of creates a bit of an issue in terms of maintenance. So we're doing a few things in that area. We're researching the best way.
Very cool. We're very excited about this. Thank you so much for your work, and you're a rock star, man. I'm like, you continuously, you never fail to impress me with your technical acumen and your incredible depth and knowledge in blockchain. So I'm very grateful to have you on board as as a friend and advisor and a member of the community at Casper. So
I appreciate that. I have to live up to the hype now. That's setting the bar too high.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, man.
Great. Yes, looking at the clock, Joe, do we have any questions incoming?
We have one question for Rasik. Rasik, what are you most excited about when working with CSPR, and why did you and Arcadia Group decide to work with Casper?
Absolutely, yeah. So when we first met the Casper guys in, I think it was Osaka, or I think the naive testnet was out at that point, and At that point in time, we were just wowed by the team. And now when we've actually played with the network, some of the cool stuff that we're excited about. Now, any blockchain can say that, hey, we have cheap transactions. That's, if the road's empty, you're not going to have traffic. But when it comes to not only scaling, but also having, having the ability to do complicated contracts while not having to worry about extremely high scaling in terms of costs. Now, as well as the interoperability in terms of it's parity WASM based, right? So it was forked off of parity WASM in terms of the WASM implementation. Now it's been heavily modified, so you can't just go parity WASM to Casper WASM. But because it has that lineage, you have a lot of the cool functionality from there alongside a lot of the cool functionality that Casper's added on. Now, the one functionality that is not an Arcadia favorite thing, but is my personal favorite, is the staking from purses functionality, which is I'm not Meta. Is that completely out yet, or is that going to be released in a later version?
Yes, it's a great question. We haven't seen a lot of people implement the purse concept. Most people have just gone with accounts, and the purses have they're there, but we're still figuring out whether people want to actually use purses. Purses could theoretically function very similarly to addresses in Ethereum, where you've got a master account and you have a bunch of purses underneath it, and it has an object capability security model baked into it. And we could choose to extend purses, or we could remove them at all and go to accounts. So I'm still seeing, trying to figure out where the ecosystem and the community land on this thing. One of the things that has been challenging is this notion of transfer ID, right? We discovered pretty late in the process. For those of you that don't know, when you transfer token via an exchange, depending on the exchange you're at, on you use Ethereum, your token goes to a forwarder contract, and that in turn forwards. Basically, there's a master account that each exchange uses, and then they have this notion of sub accounts, which they then, this forwarder contract does that. And we didn't really want to implement that in Casper because it felt like it would basically foot gun a lot of the special work we'd done for account transfers. So we chose to go with the memo ID model, which basically has the sub account thing. Ideally, it would be pretty cool if exchanges could just theoretically use purses, right? But we didn't implement it that way. So not sure which way the community wants to go on this feature and what we're going to do in the long run. But
so
yeah.
In regards to purses, the concept of potentially staking from a purse has a lot of implications in DeFi, which gets me excited. So to give you guys an idea on what I'm thinking about, if you have a purse and you're staking from a contract over to a validator, for example, you could theoretically have a native yield inside of a contract without having the associated risk of, say, lending the money out or having that money be mint-based in terms of the yield being inflationary inside of the token of the contract versus Casper as a whole of the network. So that creates a lot of opportunity in that regard. And as someone that's been working with a lot of yield farming projects and projects in that area, I can think of 100 ways to abuse that, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So staking via purses is something that is theoretically possible. It is definitely theoretically possible. It is also something that we have planned work for 2022, which is called account and contract unification. So basically, where contracts behave exactly the same as accounts, but it's much bigger than just staking, right? So if we do that, when we do that, you'll be able to stake using contracts. Contracts will be able to stake the network, number one. Number two, contracts will also be able to have assigned associated keys beyond just session code. So you could have a contract running in its own context. Right now you have a contract that runs in a session context. You can have associated keys that have the authority to run that contract or not. That's a feature of Casper. Using the weights and threshold functionality, but you could even pop it up the stack one level higher and say a contract that runs in its own context could have associated keys that could have permissions to either manage other keys or perform transactions, and even go as far as where specific methods within a contract could have a different control list than other methods in the contract. This is like all the stuff that enterprise needs, right? Like if you want to actually govern and control your contracts, you need features like this. Like this is table stakes, right? So we already know what the design looks like. It would be a fairly extensive lift in the smart contracting engine, but we think that this would be just a massive feature to deliver, right? So it's definitely on our roadmap after 1.3. And 1.3, by the way, includes call stack. So we got a lot of feedback from folks that they wanted to see call stack. So we will have a get caller function in the contract FFI that will be dropping as part of the 1.3 release, in addition to a bunch of other stuff.
So one cool thing as well on the enterprise side that I find pretty awesome is because Casper has an equivalent for Hyperledger's interactive communication setup, which is basically where you can have two parties communicating to each other on Hyperledger without the material being shared completely on chain. Casper has an equivalent there. Basically, you can have cooler setups. When I say cooler, I also mean more cost efficient. Cooler means a lot of things for me, but basically anything that sounds boring, like cost efficiency, scalability, as well as lowered compliance cost in that area. That's what I mean in that context. But basically, we're looking at one of the options right now for one of our projects, which is in the pet medical data space, and it's we were looking at Casper in that context just because it can compete with Hyperledger in that regard, as with authorizations as well as the permission model that I was just talking about.
Yeah, and it's much more flexible than Hyperledger, because Hyperledger, the only option you ever have is a private chain, right? You can never go public. You can't do even you can do a consortium network, right? Which is not possible in Ethereum because of the way the consensus protocol works. But yeah, ours is one of the few chains that will support private, public, and consortium chains, right, all the way across the stack. So it's very exciting. Cool stuff. Anything else you want to talk about? Any other questions?
We have a question. Is it possible to merge the PR87 with the 1.3 release for the Casper signer? Don't know if you can answer that, Meta.
PR87. The Casper signer is not going to release as part of 1.3. So the 1.3 release is a core node release. It is basically the node architecture, smart contracting engine, node RPC. The signer has a separate release vehicle. As I understand it, the fixes for the signer that are really important that we're looking for will release as soon as they are reviewed and merged and ready to go.
Yes, this is correct, and this is pure coincidence that now signer is being released with 1.3. It's just the numbers. So when we will be ready with the review process, we already sent out this PR to a couple of parties. Will be receiving this, and that shouldn't take more than a couple of days.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks. So yeah, if we don't have any more questions, we can wrap it up for this week. Just like to take this time to thank you all for joining today. We'll be live again with our community call next Tuesday, and of course we'll let you know with links. Thanks for all your questions, and thank you, Rasik, for joining us and talking about the Arcadia group. Very exciting, and we look forward to having you back on as a guest in the very near future. So, Absolutely. Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.